getting into the vibration of YAHAWAH.
Listen, you got to remember, words are vibrations. Words have energy. You got to think things in a spiritual sense. I ain't trying to get all far-fetched and all super deep, but this is real talk. Words are vibrations. So if you using what the name of the Lord is a vibration, the name of the Lord is energy and power. If you using terminologies, right, you using certain words, that's why Great Millstone is the promoter of understanding and the interpretation, the etymology of words and the meaning of words. And we're also the forefront or the promoters of energy, power, and frequencies. So you think you're going to be using something that was a great offense loosely in common talk and think nothing's going to, that's not going to push out a certain vibration?
You see that the vibration of YAHAWAH is being attacked heavily in this world. The men of the Lord are under attack by other Israelite groups, but it's coming from a very carnal standpoint, and they're pushing onto our people a vibration that is outside of YAHAWAH.
All of physical matter, everything we have around us, is the result of a frequency. And what that also means is that if you amplify the frequency, the structure of the matter will change.
Do you know what it is to dig the sound of anything? I can only call it, you go down into sound, and you listen to that vibration, and you go into it and into it and into it, and you suddenly realize that that vibration that you're listening to or singing is what there is. That's the energy of the cosmos. That's what's going on. And everything that's going on is a kind of a pulsation of energy.
Because when we think, we're not just sending out a wave which resonates the energy, we're sending out on a frequency outside of the range of human hearing, we're sending out a sound. Everything is sound. And that's how this universe was created.
Ernst Chladni, an 18th century musician and physicist. He spread sand on metal plates and played them with a violin bow. The vibrations from the bow caused the sand to gather into beautiful geometric forms. Next, Alexander discovered the research of Hans Jenny, a Swiss physician, who took up and expanded on Chladni's work in the 1960s using fluid mediums and electronic amplification of sound. Yenny coined the term cymatics from the Greek for wave for this branch of study. Today, Alexander Lauterwasser is building on the work of his predecessors, employing modern sound and recording equipment. He has custom-built devices which allow him to stimulate various materials, such as sand or water, with sound vibrations whose frequencies can be precisely controlled. The sand is pushed from areas where the vibration is strongest and collects where it is the weakest, forming patterns that correspond to the particular tone that is applied to the plate. The higher the frequency applied, the more complex and detailed is the pattern that results. Under controlled conditions, these forms are repeatable. under the influence of sound vibrations.
If we bring a piece of steel close to a magnet, we say that the steel becomes magnetized. But what is it that actually happens? If we place the steel inside a coil of wire connected to a high-gain amplifier, and then bring the magnet close to the bar of steel, we can hear something that suggests movement inside the steel. Listen.
Many people are still wondering how huge structures, huge ancient structures were built. The tremendously large scale, the weight and the size of the stones used. Some of the stones actually look as if they're inflated, as balloons are inflated and put into place. Recently, an Egyptian archaeologist has stated that he believes that acoustic or sonic levitation was used to move these rocks into place. He states that he has found documents saying that a special papyrus was put under each rock, and then the rocks, the stones used for the building of the pyramids, were struck with a metal rod, and each of these stones was then passed through a pathway that was flanked by metal rods.
Okay, this is a 3/4 inch copper tube, 4 feet long, with a 1/2 inch steel ball bearing stuck to the outside. Inside the tube is a 1/2 inch diameter powerful neodymium magnet holding the ball bearing fast. It takes 8 seconds to fall straight down. 3, 2, 1, dropping. By contrast, here is the vertical fall with just the steel ball bearing through the tube. 3, 2, 1, release.
Anti-gravity machine. And look, it's not attracted. It's just weird stuff. Eddy currents. Could do this all day. It's so cool. Alright, see? Neodymium magnet, copper pipe, thick wall, type K. Special effects. But not special effects. This is actually happening.
Не понимаю всего.
He states that he has found documents saying that a special papyrus was put under each rock, and then the rocks, the stones used for the building of the pyramids, were struck with a metal rod, and each of these stones was then passed through a pathway that was flanked by metal rods. So this seems to indicate that acoustic technology was used for the levitation of these stones to move them from one location to another and position them onto their specific locations to construct the pyramids. So I tried to find out if there was anyone researching acoustic levitation, the use of sound to levitate, to decrease the weight and the gravitational force on something, on matter, like stones or wood or whatever else. And I found that there are unbelievably tremendous amounts of recorded successful evidence on the NASA government site. Not only papers, but videos, and there's just too many to go into. So I found just one of the many that are listed here has to do with experiments on sonic levitation. And you'll be amazed. This is a paper that is in the public domain. It's by NASA, okay? And has to do with electrostatic levitation, it says a tool to support materials research in microgravity. There's some beautiful pictures in here, but basically they're stating that they're using electrostatic, electromagnetic, electricity and magnetism, and acoustic, aerodynamic and other, okay, to find out how they can manipulate materials to lessen the gravitational forces on them. So looking at the acoustic side of this, they found that even a drop of water in space, instead of becoming pear-shaped, it becomes round. It becomes round. And they played around with heat. And they say that when they increase the heat, they found that they can levitate something using a sound frequency. That's very easy for them to do. But then they played around with heat, the heat on the subject. The heat would heat up the material and would make it, then using a gravitational force centrifuge to make it turn, it would combine with the heat, it would make it bloat out like a little balloon.
I'm going to be talking about musical frequencies, and that could sound like a really dry subject. It's like, well, what is a frequency? And we could say hertz and how many times something vibrates per second, and that starts to sound very scientific and very laboratory-ish and kind of. But I'm here to tell you that every single one of you, as John just said, we're all vibrating a certain frequency. Every cell inside of us is vibrating a frequency. Our blood cells are vibrating a frequency. And everything has an individual frequency. And if we were smart enough and spent enough time and went into the laboratory, we would be able to identify each item by the frequency that it's emitting. And we're in 1 Samuel, it records that, in fact, we'll go over that text in a minute. It records that Saul would have a troubling spirit come upon him, and David would play the harp, and that spirit would leave. And I thought, what kind of music would have made that spirit leave? There must be something embedded within the actual text of the Psalms itself, the Hebrew characters. Could it be, and what Mika was sharing with me and some of the others, we're taking this idea that possibly each Hebrew letter actually also had a frequency that was associated with it as well. Why not? And so So then the sand plate studies, I think Rico has this in his, but I've taken some more looks at some other stuff, and man, it's just, this whole field of cymatics is just incredible. The geometric patterns and all kinds of things. And so, some of the geometric patterns have the hexagon and then the pentagon, and then so different frequencies have different characters, and so it just gets really amazing the further you get into it. It's just incredible. There's all kinds of stuff on YouTube about cymatics if you're interested in the subject. But the thing that got my attention was that one of the earlier cymatic experiments was to speak a Hebrew letter into the microphone that then transferred that vibration to a sand plate, and look at the formation of the pattern that formed on the sand plate. So you see here the Aleph, this is the sand, with at least a very close semblance. Now one of the classes I was doing said, well, that's the Babylonian, that's not the Paleo. You know? It's like, well, come on, guys. You know, the key is that there's a relationship, okay? That's the key. That's what I want. If some of you get lost in some of the math I'm going to do here in a minute, don't worry about that. Just take the idea home with you that there is a relationship between a Hebrew character and a frequency. If you can just take that one little thought home, then you've got something to work with, okay? And so we think that the farther back we go, they just didn't have any technology. How could they know anything about frequencies or anything? I get asked this all the time. Well, what would they have tuned with? You know, they didn't have any electronic tuners back then. And I go like, you know, we don't know what they had. I think we're finally starting to catch up on some of the stuff that has been lost. And, you know, what Yeshua said, as it was in the days of Noah. So was he talking just about the wickedness? No, I think he's talking about technology. I think he's talking about all kinds of things going on. Those are just my thoughts. I'm not going to preach that as a theology, but I'm just thinking that we have been fooled into thinking that David couldn't possibly have known all this stuff. I think he did. He was a prophet. Father would have told him what he needed to know, revealed to him what he needed to have to make these things, put these things in place. And I'm going to talk with you about some, I think, an exciting idea, and it's just an idea, but I'm thinking, wow, maybe so. But anyway, we'll get to there. Anyway, David set up the captains who, their job was to prophesy on those instruments. That was their job, prophesying on instruments. That was what was being done every day in the tabernacle of David. Okay? So it wasn't just music, and I shouldn't just say just, but there was a whole level of receiving words from the Lord along with that music. Okay?